What's up? Welcome in. Hoge and Jahns back with you, home from London with Kevin Fishbain on with us today as well. Of course, Fish and I back from London. Johnsy apparently made the right decision. We got to get into all this stuff.
Still here.
How's everybody doing?
We're good. Apparently, Kevin, if you're watching on YouTube, missed the memo about wearing a black hoodie.
Yeah.
I thought I'd wear a collar to I don't know, be a little professional.
The only collar allowed on the show is a Hoge and Jahns polo from hogeandjahns.com.
That's true.
Otherwise,
we probably have to get him one.
Yeah. We have had this weird thing lately. I swear, Johns, where we've been wearing, if not the same thing, almost the same thing on almost every show. And it's not even like remotely the same color every time. I don't know. Guess we're going to have to plan this a little bit better. Anyway, welcome in. We got a lot to talk about. Appreciate everybody who listened to the sort of half London shows, and good job by Chris Emma filling in on the post-game episode on Monday. Of course, Kevin did an episode from out London. I did one. And Johnsy was home the entire time. Made the right call, it sounds like, buddy.
I don't know if it was the right call, but if you can remember last time I went to London, I spent the first 2 days in bed because I got the stomach flu in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, which is absolutely torturous. I would wish that upon my worst enemies. Just awful. This year, with you guys in London, Wednesday, I woke up with a throbbing toothache. And I've had this issue now it's been a week. We're going to have surgery on a tooth here in a couple days. I can't imagine what I would have been like in London, just complaining about my tooth every day there to Kevin, just nonstop. But Advil's working.
That's all, just Advil. That's good. Okay. Well, yeah, that would have been the last thing we need is you to be miserable in London again. So I guess you made the right call. Yeah, it was funny because obviously pretty much everywhere we went, where's Johns? Where's Johns? Why didn't he come? And then like your stomach bug issue is now infamous enough that people are like, did he really not come? Because he was just like worried that was going to happen again. And I was kind of like, I don't think that's the only reason, but it's definitely like, I don't know, 20% of the reason.
Oh, I would definitely. And the thing is, like, leading up to that, I was telling Kevin, I had like 2 kids go to the doctor before that week, and I would have been just like a complete miserable, nervous wreck boarding that plane. But they're fine. I'm fine. But it's the thing when you have children, you're never healthy.
Well, we were still there, and it was amazing just talking. Even on the flight home yesterday, a lot of the people that came with CHGO were on that flight, and they had Hoge and Jahns loaded up on their phone to listen to on the way home if they hadn't listened to it already. CHGO, and just it was an interesting. So Kevin and I had different experiences, obviously, because he was there on a credential and covered the game from the media side, and for the first time in 15 years, I was in the stands. I got to go to the game with my son and my wife for the first time, and in all honesty, got like emotional a couple times just because of how cool everything was, and to have that experience with James and Krista. But it, to be in the stands in a different country and to have that many people like stop you and just I always talk about this. We didn't get into this podcast to like have an international following or anything. We didn't know that was going to happen, but it makes sense in hindsight, that Bears fans in other countries listening to podcasts is probably the best way for them to keep up with the team. It's incredible. It really, it consistently blew me away almost every single day I was there. And so I just want to say thank you to everybody that, stopped me at any point with all the kind words. Probably way too many beers were also consumed with some of those people along the way, but it was definitely a different work travel experience for me this time. And it was nothing but fun and honestly like humbling at times just to, spend the time with the amount of people we did that enjoy this show, enjoy CHGO, enjoy everything that you guys write in The Athletic too. It's just really cool. So I want to make sure we started the show with that today.
Yeah, at one point I had 4 different people from 4 different countries introduce themselves to me, because and they said how much they appreciate this show, and specifically, of course, my appearances on this show.
Yeah.
Of
To
course.
the fan, like I was as you guys know, the press box in Tottenham Stadium is like in the stands, which is a really cool experience to be. And we have open air press boxes in America, but this one you were just like in the stands. You're low, you're about midfield, and there was a fan kind of waving to me with his phone, and I kind of looked around the press box, and I was like, me? And I went down, and he wanted to take a selfie, and I'm so sorry, I forgot what country he was from, but it was very loud in there. But he said he's a huge fan of this podcast. So yeah, and then I think the last one was on my flight home from London. I was just like in the back of the plane as everyone was trying to get to their seats, and guy gave me a nod and said, "Looking forward to the pod this week." And it was cool. So it's a big testament, of course, to you guys and this brand that you've built, and it's very cool to be a part of that. And yeah, so shout out to all those fans who said hello. And now it's gotten to the point. This is going to sound a little obnoxious because like none of us are famous, but like I was walking in the grocery store yesterday, and a guy said hi to me, and I was like, "Is he a parent from my kid's school, or does he know me from the Hoge and Jahns podcast?" And I just kind of said, "Hey, how you doing?" He was wearing Bears gear, so that's maybe, and I didn't. So could be either or, could be both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you. I'm sorry I missed everybody out there. I will be on future road trips. I'm going to Washington. I'm going to Arizona. I'm going to what's up? What else we got next? San Francisco. That's on the
Yeah.
schedule. Then we got Minnesota and all the regular
Detroit.
ones.
Yeah.
And Thanksgiving again. So come by, say hi. I'm sorry I missed all of you, but thank you as always.
All right, we're gonna have to talk about this a little bit then, because are you guys both going to Arizona?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because that's our next CHGO road trip. And
sounds like John's going to go to the CSGO party.
yeah, I
I'm-
think
Finally.
you're gonna have to make good by coming to at least one of those events. I will say one of the events is a golf outing.
In Arizona?
Yeah.
Well, now you have my attention. Which day?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Bring your
It's
clubs.
Saturday?
I believe it's Saturday morning. Yeah.
Okay. I see what we could do. Might have to move a few things around, but we could do that.
You might have to come out a little bit early. And everybody listening that might be coming to those events, you can you have my permission to peer pressure John's into that a little bit. All right, I promise we're gonna get into some Bear stuff. But we were talking off air. I have to get this in. So Kevin, what movie were you watching on the flight home?
I watched Varsity Blues. I also watched Barbie, which, by the way, is unbelievable. Like I don't even know like where I put in my rank of all time favorite movies, but it was so good. But I also watched Varsity.
Your two movies on the way home were Barbie and Varsity Blues.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So,
Okay.
there's
We
a
can talk
couple
about Varsity Blues.
there's a couple scenes in Varsity Blues. It's
Okay.
this being your first time.
Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to figure out why I'd never seen Varsity Blues before, and it's a good reminder that I am significantly younger than you guys, specifically John's. And so I think when it came out, I was like too young to see it in theaters, and it just wasn't. But you know what I did see when I was younger was Not Another Teen Movie. You guys remember that one?
Yeah.
Which like spoofed all the 90s movies, and there's like so many scenes in that movie that are takes on Varsity Blues, including the famous whipped cream scene. So I kind of knew it was going to be in Varsity Blues, but I just assumed that like American Airlines, like all the I'd assume they have like the television version of the movie that you're watching or something, you know.
Oh.
No, and then there's a scene where they all go to a strip club.
So, like, hold on, back up a second.
Yeah.
That scene, one of those scenes, the teacher dancing or the whipped cream scene. What is your reaction to the people sitting around you? Like,
So
are you,
okay,
are you fast forwarding?
So the way that those monitors are set up is you can't really see the person next to you's monitor. How did you experience? Like,
Yeah, 100%.
You
Yeah.
because you flew the same airline as I did, right?
Yeah, I flew American, and I've been on those American 787s many times. They're nice planes, and the monitors are they're tinted to the side. So even James sitting next to me was trying to show me what he was watching, and I had to lean all the way over to get in his line of sight of his. Now, I will say though, Kevin, a lot of times the person behind you might be able to see or across the aisle if you had an aisle situation going.
Well, so that was actually one of the reasons I decided to watch Varsity Blues was because on my flight to London, I'm looking down the aisle ahead of me and I see somebody watching it on their thing and I could see it pretty clearly. So yeah, somebody was able to see. So
you saw the whipped cream scene on somebody else's thing and you're like, I gotta watch that on the way home.
No, I missed it because if I had, I probably would have been able to time it better and been ready for it. So I did hit the fast forward button because I got very uncomfortable that somebody was going to be like, what are they watching? And yeah, hit the fast forward.
Now your phone's buzzing because you're in trouble. It reminds me of the one time I watched Slapshot. You guys have all seen Slapshot, right?
Yeah. Great movie.
There's a scene in Slapshot where
there's several scenes in Slapshot.
There's several scenes in Slapshot, and you almost forget about it. So I'm watching Slapshot on a road trip on a plane ride. I'm like, oh, I forgot about this scene, and I'm hurriedly speeding through this scene, which happens to be a very long conversation in bed between Reggie and his lady friend. And I'm with you, Kev. Becomes a bit awkward.
Yeah, fantastic movie though, really good. And
I watched the Bob Marley. I watched the Bob Marley movie, One Love. It was great. I felt like I had a very productive flight home. I watched a movie. I watched all the Carmel film I had to watch. I watched all the Bears film I had to watch, and I got a 2-hour nap and still entertain my son a little bit too.
Speaking of film,
yeah.
We're here to talk about.
We should talk Bears too. Yeah, I forgot. What did you focus on, Kevin, in your film session this week?
So this week's All 22 breakdown, gentlemen, was we had a lot of talk about Keenan Allen, understandably, a lot of talk about Cole Kmet, understandably. I want to highlight DeAndre Swift because he's been playing really well. The offensive line's been playing really well. And you're seeing what he's doing, opening things up. I mean, I included the Cole Kmet touchdown, right? Because the threat of the screen pass to Swift as part of that, kind of some of the window dressing that helped set up Cole Kmet's touchdown. I included, Johns, you wrote about that this week about Caleb Williams running. He had that 10-yard run on a keeper, a little read option set up by DeAndre Swift. So I'm not going to go through all his plays, but I want to give you guys a couple statistics that I found as I'm doing this, and folks can go check out the plays. I thought the offensive line, and Hoge, I don't know if you did your grades yet. I thought Teven Jenkins, Coleman Shelton, across the board. I think everybody had maybe their best game. I mean, Darnell Wright had some Darnell Wright plays from last year in that game. And I thought Teven played well. I thought Coleman Shelton is probably his best game.
He's been getting better the last few weeks too. And I saw that Baldy had one of his Baldy breakdowns was showing how physical Teven Jenkins was. Back to kind of being that guy that just, I'm going to knock somebody over every single play.
So here's a good offensive line stat. And again, this stat could be a little finicky, but it makes sense when you hear it too. So yards before contact per carry. Okay. Weeks 1 to 3, this is from True Media. Weeks 1 through 3, DeAndre Swift was averaging 0.14 yards before contact. Wow. That ranked 43rd out of 46 qualifying running backs. So I mean, pretty much the second he's getting the ball, somebody's contacting him. In the past 3 games, 2.41 yards before contact, which is 5th among running backs. And you go back and you watch his 12-yard run, his 17-yard run, his 19-yard run, and you're seeing the push up front. You're seeing these guys drive the D-line off the ball, and he's got room to run. So I thought that was a very impressive stat. And I said, again, I think it speaks to the way the offensive line has played the last 3 weeks.
How much of that is this is I hate the competition argument. The Bears obviously have played 3 bad teams in a row, but Do you take that into account a little bit? Like, I thought the Jaguars actually had a pretty decent run defense coming into this game. Did they not?
I think they ranked like second in the league. Now, maybe it's a little flawed because teams are just throwing the ball on them and they don't need to run. But you would also think that they've been down so much in games that teams would be, juicing those run numbers a little bit. But yeah, I mean, John's like, I didn't talk about this in the all 22, but Caleb was only sacked 3 times in the game, but for minimal yards. I mean, the first 2 drives obviously were bad, but that was the Jacksonville's strength on defense, was those 2 defensive ends. And you also saw, like, there was a play, let's see, it was a 12-yard run, and you see the entire left side of the defensive line totally running upfield to go after Caleb Williams, and DeAndre Swift already has the ball. And you can see, like, this is what balanced attacks do. Like, you can get them going different ways. And the other stat I wanted to throw you guys' way is about the screen passes. So, because it feels like the running back screen's been a major part of this offense the last 3 weeks. So I wanted to see kind of like how much they're using it and how effective it's been. Because I also included Roshan Johnson, who had a nice screen pass in that game. Weeks 4 through 6, the Bears are 6 for 6 on passes to running backs on screen pace for 121 yards. It's a passer rating of 118. So 121 yards they're gaining on those running back screens. And those first 3 weeks, those screens were going like, they weren't doing a lot of running back screens early in the season. But again, and the screen's working out well. And as we saw in the Cole Kmet touchdown, it can open things up for you as well. So those are just some fun stats, fun facts for everybody.
Well, and that's what I wanted to bring up, kind of the theme of, or the consistent thing of every little piece that you just hit on with a lot of different players and a lot of different parts of this Bears offense is the biggest thing that I noticed watching, the full offensive film coming home from London yesterday was just like the amount of plays we're seeing called and executed based on stuff earlier in the season, like things that make sense. So, I mean, I think we got to give Shane Waldron credit for how different this has looked the last few weeks compared to the first 10 quarters of the season is really what it was. And I'll give you an example. Did you guys notice the personnel on the interception? So even the bad play of the game, Caleb Williams interception, just extremely underthrown football to DJ Moore, not a good play. Really the only thing to complain about from this game for the most part. But did you notice the personnel? Did you see who was in the backfield?
Well, wasn't Doug Kramer and Karan Namagaji on the field for that play?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So yeah, they are, that's plays on plays, right? This Doug Kramer thing has been so successful so far that and let me double check the down and distance here. It was 3rd and 1, ball on the Jags 41. Getting in late second quarter. And yeah, Amagaji's out there too. So you're bringing in this personnel and you're thinking, oh man, okay, here comes what was Flus called as God's play, right? Here, the Roshan Johnson is in the backfield. So this is the personnel that's been picking up these short yardage situations. Bam, play action. And it works. I mean, DJ was open. It should have been a touchdown. And it was just, not the greatest ball in the world. That's going to happen sometimes. But it's just another example that even on the negative play of the game, I thought the play really made sense based on what's been working and how you want to counter off some of this stuff as you build off of plays and continue to diversify the playbook.
I think one of my biggest takeaways over yes, they're playing bad defenses, but I think that's allowed Shane Waldron time to figure out what works best for, not only his quarterback, but for DeAndre Swift. Getting Keenan Allen going. I put this in my takeaways column. Like, one of my favorite things about the Bears' run of offensive success over the past 3-4 weeks is that every week it's somebody new. It's just not like Justin Fields and DJ Moore. Now it's Caleb Williams and Keenan Allen and Cole Kmet. 2 weeks ago, it was DJ Moore against Carolina. Before that, not too long before that, it was Roma Dunze breaking out for his first 100-yard receiving game of his career. Like, I liked it every single week. there's another player, another receiver, another tight end standing out in this offense.
What's that line? You never go broke taking a profit, right? And you're seeing just like the positive plays that they don't have to necessarily be these giant explosive plays. Like we're not seeing him really beating teams downfield. But if it's a Swift 10-yard run, if it's a Keenan Allen 7-yard catch, it's a DJ Moore 5-yard catch, like they're just everything is in a rhythm. They're not taking these giant losses. They're not taking these, stops for no gain. And Johns, you wrote this after the Panthers game, I believe, about Shane Waldron, kind of what Hoge was saying too. Like, if you're going to rip this guy for the first 3 weeks, you got to give him his flowers for what's happening. And I do think too, like, you guys remember the old Bill Lazor offense that looked great for a few weeks with Mitch in 2020, right? And we're all like, oh my God, look at all the things they're doing, the under center stuff, the boots, whatever. But like we all knew that wasn't like a sustainable way to run an offense. Like it wasn't going to it was working in those situations. I think we're able to kind of decipher that this is something, as you touched on, Hoge, you can expand this in so many different ways. And all the guys in the locker room after the game, like they're all sitting there being like, this is great. We still have so much more to do. Yeah. Right. Like here's one for you. I know Rome Odunze had 2 big catches. Like there's going to be a game where Rome Odunze has like 150 yards receiving. Like there's going to be a game where he gets some kind of just 45-yard catch down the sideline. Like there's going to these guys there's going to be, and this is kind of the fun thing about his offense that they all said was going to happen. It just took a few weeks, right? So week 4 was DeAndre Swift. Week 5 was DJ Moore. Week 6 was, Allen and Kmet. And you're just going to have different opportunities to just kind of showcase the different players you have.
Well, and that was Cole Kmet and I had a pretty in-depth conversation about that very thing on the 85 last night, which was like, I think the players are very aware of the fact that the last 3 weeks, they haven't played the toughest opponents in the league. They know that. But the thing about that is, so yeah, the schedule's going to get harder. Everybody understands that. I think everybody in the building knows that. You could still look at the progress that's been made, since week 1, how bad that looked in week 1 compared to how good it just looked in week 6. And it's still open for more improvement. Like the Bears are going to continue to change and evolve, or it could go the other way, to be honest with you, because there are ebbs and flows in the season. But, the point is things change, and some of those opponents that it looks really hard right now are probably going to take a step back too. So all you can do is play the team on your schedule, who you play that week, and then go and execute. And I just thought that Cole had some interesting comments on that last night. Kevin, really good stuff. I know we got to let you go. And we got a lot of questions to get to from our audience in a Q&A as well. But, my only regret in London is that we didn't spend more time together. I saw Kevin once the entire week.
Yeah.
But, yeah. But we both. Here's the crazy thing. We somehow both saw Nick Friedel a lot.
Yes. Shout out Nick Friedel.
The math everywhere on that didn't really work. Like somehow we both spent separate time with Nick Friedel a lot, but only came across each other once.
Next time in Madrid.
Ooh, are you breaking a story?
By the way, 2 quick things before I go. Number 1, as you guys know, I'm a big two things can be true guy. The Bears have played bad defenses and they've looked really good. So like everyone's allowed to have simultaneous thoughts in their head. Number 2 is I think I learned something about the Northwestern Wildcats while I was in London.
Here's the 15 seconds.
I should sleep through more Northwestern games. I don't think in my entire life, I actually just like totally missed an entire Cats game. Just like not even like checking. I kept like waking up throughout the night, like, cause my brain knew like this is happening. And I said, nope, go back to sleep. I woke up, it was morning, turned on my phone, dominant Cats win. Will I see you there Saturday, Hoge?
Literally was exchanging some texts right before we started recording this about how and where I'm going to get tickets. The Hoge family might be trying to pull off a Cats, Wisconsin, Blackhawks Sabres doubleheader on Saturday.
Wow. All right, listeners, Hoge and Jahns listeners, let's come through for the Hoge family. If you guys saw the Wall Street Journal, it's the toughest ticket in college football. Northwestern.
I mean, I got connections with both schools, and I'm struggling to get my family at the game. So it's a tough ticket right now.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, everybody enjoy your bye week and go Cats.
Bye, Kev.
See you, buddy. All right, it's Kevin Fishbain. Great stuff as always. Follow him on Twitter at KFishbain. All right, Johnsy, I know we got a lot of questions from listeners that you compiled yesterday, and we're going to end the show by flying through those. I'll let you kind of tee this up.
Well, I compiled them, but I have no idea what order they're going to come in.
So cool.
Let's go. First one.
All right. First one from our guy. Yeah,
Mason.
go ahead and read it. You got it.
This is from our guy Mason. Nate Davis was a healthy scratch. The coaches have clearly moved on. Teams don't normally trade offensive linemen midseason because depth is so important. Is this the rare case where Davis could be traded to a team with depth issues, willing to take a chance on his issues, or do they cut him, or does he just live in inactive hell?
This is a very good question. I like thought out questions. I would imagine, Johns, if there was a team that came knocking, the Bears would entertain it. Because I think the other option is probably inactive hell. And the reason for that is, I know everybody's always like, just cut him, get rid of him. He's still probably one of the better options you could have. Somebody sitting inactive on Sunday to have to play if needed, if injuries continue to strike. So you probably keep him on the roster for that reason. But that being said, if someone's willing to call and offer something, and maybe a good name to bring up in this conversation, Johns, is we still don't really know what, if any, offer there was for Velus Jones right before the season. But do you think Ryan Poles regrets not taking it, since Velus Jones has been just sitting there in inactive hell since he botched that kick return in week 1?
Yeah, that one, yes. Yeah, he has not played since week 1, so I think absolutely there's some regret from Ryan Poles, and that's okay. You wanted to give one of your own draft picks an opportunity. You like what he did in the preseason, like what he did in training camp. You seem to find a home at running back. That was a long conversation. That's fine. Sure, there's some regret there. With Nate Davis, I don't know, man. You're like one Teven Jenkins injury away from needing him again, from moving pieces around the offensive line again. And I like Bill Murray. I think the Bears like Bill Murray. I think Karana Amagaji is coming around quite quickly. That said, one bad injury changes that depth pretty quickly. So I think for now, you keep him.
Trading him, not easy either with the money situation, but there's always teams desperate for offensive linemen out there. So, I don't know. It's tough, but it's a good question.
So the answer is inactive hell.
I think that's where we settled on that one. Yeah.
Next question. From Oak Lightning. What does Caleb Williams do differently than Jayden Daniels and the other way around? Is it just different schemes, different set of skills? Is Daniels being asked to do all that Caleb does?
Another great question. So I've actually been thinking about this. I love that the Bears have a bye going into this Commanders game, because we've obviously spent a lot of time talking about Jayden Daniels versus Caleb Williams and all this stuff. But if I'm being completely honest, like, I have not had enough time to go through all the tape on Jayden Daniels so far this season, but going to have some time to do that during the bye and get to watch him on Sunday before they meet. And by the way, we should mention that game got flexed to the afternoon window in 2 weeks, which is awesome. So you're gonna have Tony Romo and Jim Nantz on the call of that big game in Washington. Johnsy will be there. But from what I can tell and from what I've seen, I mean, obviously, in going back to obviously the scouting before the draft, to me, Jayden Daniels is more comparable to Justin Fields or a Lamar Jackson in terms of more of the running type quarterback. Now, he has proven, though, that he can move the ball through the air, that he can sit there and run an offense and execute plays. Now, that being said, from what I have seen on film, what I have watched, I think Caleb is way more advanced at sitting in the pocket, going through his progressions, and throwing things on time. I think that, and this is not a knock on Jayden, I think things have been schemed up tweaked a little bit more specifically to what Jayden Daniels can and cannot do early on in his career by Cliff Kingsbury, which is a good thing. That's what they should be doing. And that's led to some of the early success. I am very curious to see if there is not necessarily a regression, but an adjustment that comes mid-season. And honestly, the Bears are going to be an amazing test for that in this game that's coming up next for the Bears with their defense and how they adapt and how they kind of work to shut that down. There's definitely been a slant towards throws to the right for Jayden Daniels. And he's, to his credit, he's more dangerous running the ball than Caleb. But the Bears' approach with Caleb is we've got a guy who can sit there in the pocket and run left to right, right to left, an entire progression. It might be bumpy early on in the season, but we're going to stick with this. We're going to see if it starts to come together with the weapons that he has around him. And if you watch that tape from London, he was mostly on time, tight window throws, going through his progressions. To me, the more complete passer, the quarterback to run an entire NFL offense than Jayden Daniels is so far, or quite frankly will be, in my opinion, which is why I had Caleb Williams rated so much higher than Jayden Daniels coming in. But again, to what Kevin just said a few minutes ago, two things can be true. And it would be cool to have both these guys be good at quarterback in the league, but with slightly different skill sets, obviously.
Yeah, they're definitely definitely in different systems. What you said about throwing to his right, we all have seen those next gen stats like completion charts or that graphic where the ball is being spread around,
including one that was highly edited and wrong. I don't know if you saw that one.
Which one?
Well, there was one that was going around the internet the other day that literally had like no passes completed, like beyond the left hash.
Oh, yeah,
or the numbers.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, that's not real. But the real ones are real, and they still do slant to the right.
Yes, a bulk of his completions have been to the right. Just to throw out other numbers to you, other data. I mean, Jayden Daniels is running a lot more than Caleb Williams. He has 63 rushing attempts for 322 yards and 4 touchdowns this season. The Bears are not operating the same way with Caleb Williams. As good as he is as a runner, he's just not the same runner as Jayden Daniels. I think what Caleb does is pretty unique in terms of his pocket awareness, just his anticipation too, like in the pocket. It's pretty special, the awareness is. But they're in totally different schemes. And I think the question for the Commanders is, there's history of this. The Cliff Kingsbury system eventually runs into certain walls that it can't get over. Are the Bears one? It seemed to do okay against a pretty good Ravens defense. I thought Jayden Daniels passed that test, but and here's another thing. If you're going to, Jayden Daniels has had a lot of success against bad defenses, just like Caleb Williams has. So I think that needs to be part of the conversation as well, but different schemes.
Yeah. Continue to let this play out, but that's another good question.
Yeah. Next question.
Next one.
You want this one?
Yeah, I'll take this. Bears dubs at Bears_dubs. Could the conditional 6 from the Steelers that turns to a 4th based on Fields' playing time be a good chip to trade with if they need a lineman or edge help? It would be a better chip if it was confirmed by the trade deadline, which I don't think is mathematically possible. Otherwise, that would be sort of a risky piece to acquire. But yeah, theoretically, it can still be traded again.
Yeah. A lot of questions about the trade deadline. I think we'll have a few of these in a row. What are the Steelers doing, by the way? That's why I wanted to include this one. I get that Justin Fields can't do all the things you want him to do as a passer, but the Steelers are 4-2 with him. He's moving the ball quite well through the air and on the ground, and you're going to give first-team snaps to Russell Wilson this week and create a quarterback controversy? Adam Hoge, what's going on in Pittsburgh?
Well, I've been thinking about this, and I think it is a It's a tough situation to navigate probably for them. I think if you've been really watching these Steelers games, though, I mean, they have been severely limiting what they've been calling and trying to keep things as safe as possible for Justin Fields. And quite honestly, somewhere in the factor of all this is probably that draft pick. Because if they go to Russell and then Russell ends up staying healthy and is better passing the ball, then they don't lose 2 rounds with that draft pick. So I think there's a lot of different factors. I can see why Mike Tomlin right now is going, all right, well, we signed both of these guys required both of these guys to give them both a chance. They're both on last year of their contract. And we need to, if not only for this season, but the future, take a look at both guys. Justin Fields, you would think, has more runway, just given his age and where he's at in his career. But, I guess the downside also carries some upside, because if Russell comes out there and things don't go well, then you just go back to Justin. And at least and then publicly it makes it easier to make that decision, because you're like, well, we did give Russell a chance and it just didn't work. So there's some politics involved in it too. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I think that's got to be the logic and why they're doing it.
I'm not surprised that the Steelers are going in this direction. I just thought it would happen maybe after a couple more bad games from Justin Fields. And maybe they're now no longer 4-2, now they're 4-4, 5-4. I thought he has earned the opportunity to stay the starter until things really get bad.
Well, yeah, to his credit, I mean, he's made this harder on them than they probably thought. So,
next question.
All right, I'll take this one too. At @A_SH Sports, the Jaguars were one of the best run defenses in the NFL prior to the game last week. If the Bears can continue this success in the run game, will it alleviate the pressure on Caleb and the O-line against better teams? And do you think it'll be more successful? I think, to what Kevin brought up, in his film session, what DeAndre Swift and this running game has accomplished, 100% correlates with what's helped Caleb get more comfortable throwing the ball.
Absolutely. He can lean on it a little bit. And I think we're starting to see what the Bears have envisioned. Well, since the signing of DeAndre Swift for him on the football field, I think the Bears are starting to get what they want from him in terms of their decision making in the offseason.
All right, we're gonna have to speed these up just a little bit, but we'll go on to the next one. All great questions so far. It's Polo. Are the Bears one elite pass rusher away from becoming Super Bowl contenders? In reality, what is a weakness on this team right now? Woo!
Sounds like a question.
Yeah.
Let me pull up the pass rush numbers real quick.
Well, let me first answer the last part of that. I hate even saying this because they've been so much better the last couple of weeks, and we just got done talking about the offensive line. Is it a Super Bowl offensive line, though? I mean, I think the depth that Ryan Poles kind of took a small victory lap in when he talked in London was totally warranted and cool, because they are proving that they have depth. But that would be at least offensively where my concern still is. Like, would you? It's to me, it's good enough for the playoffs, but just to answer that second part, I'm not sure I would call it a Super Bowl offensive line. Yeah, I don't. So do they? I guess the question on the first part is, do they really need to add another edge rusher to what they've already been able to throw out there?
Just a quick look at some advanced numbers. The Bears are top 10 in pressure percentage. They're top 11 or 12 looking at this in quarterback knockdown percentage. Same thing, 10, 11, 12. They're in that range for hurry percentage. They're still not blitzing a lot. The blitz numbers are on the bottom third of the league. So I think the Bears are probably happy with what they're getting from their pass rush right now. It is not as bad as it was last year, where all those numbers were bottom 5, bottom 6, bottom 7 in the league. Now you're talking about top 10 in a lot of these categories. Yes, they've played some bad quarterbacks, but so what? This is what you do to bad quarterbacks. So I'm kind of with you. I think the weakest positions, if you want to phrase it that way, even though the offensive line is playing better, is maybe the offensive line. And I think some of those investments will happen next year when you have a first-round pick and 2 second-round picks.
I was going to say, I think this is going to be an interesting situation for Ryan Poles at the trade deadline, because I don't think they're at the point yet where you want to push all the chips in and be like, you can go get this thing right now. Because that's when you start to mortgage the future on the back end. And you cannot forget that you have this 4-year window with Caleb Williams on a rookie contract. And so it could be tempting to go get another guy. And to me, the biggest argument for adding another pass rusher isn't necessarily because they haven't gotten what they needed out of the guy. I mean, because I actually think they have. To me, it would be just the depth. Like, what if Montez Sweat misses a couple games? What does it look like then? That, to me, that would be more of the argument. But at this point, sitting where they're at right now, I would not want to trade another second-round pick. Especially with the track record that Ryan Poles has shown, what he can do with those second-round picks. Now, this could change in a couple weeks, but this is where I sit right now. I'd rather push this thing forward, what you got, continue to develop the guys you have on the roster. Still mostly a young team.
Austin Booker.
Yeah.
Every week he's doing something where you notice, even if he's just, chasing the play.
Because remember, if you bring somebody else in, you're taking reps away from him. So maybe another Darrell Taylor-like move where it's a late-round pick. But I don't think this is a situation like last year where you had to move a second-round pick to go get Montez Sweat.
This is where a GM keeps the long term in mind when everyone else, like outside the building, is obsessed with the short term. Like this season, he has to be more patient, at least more thoughtful, more considerate for the actual future. Like Max Crosby sounds amazing. Of course he would, but you got to think about the future.
Because imagine real quick, just imagine if by this time next year, Booker is clearly a starter. And then, oh, by the way, you use a first or second round pick on another high quality pass rusher. Now you have depth and a rotation and waves of pass rushers coming with a team that should still be going in this direction next season. So that's where, just be careful with it. Another great question though. Next one. At _Fitz88, are the Bears making their regular second rounder for a trade before the deadline?
Well, good timing. I'll repeat what I said. I think, like, if I'm the Bears, you've already spent a second round pick on Montez Sweat. You've already made that big move. You've already signed him to a big contract. You traded for Darrell Taylor. You have 2 good pass rushers and a young pass rusher in Austin Booker. I think, to me, if I'm projecting what's ahead for my team, I love the idea of having offensive linemen like atop my board with 2 second-round picks to use on them. And one of them could be like the second or third pick in the second round from the Carolina Panthers. So that's like a top 35 pick. That's a starter. So if I'm the Bears, I don't know. That's appealing to me. Maybe that's where you find your starting center, your replacement for Nate Davis. Maybe that's where you find a lot of your answers for your offensive line.
Yeah, because right now you're sitting with what? 3 picks, somewhere between 20 and 60. A lot of good talent to always be found there in the draft.
You know what? Could be a pass rusher, too.
Mm-hmm.
Good range for a pass rusher.
All right. Next one. At _context _. Why does the offense struggle so much in the first quarter? Great question. And if I guarantee you, if they're looking at one thing on improving in the bye week, it's that. Because even talking to Cole last night on the 85, like you could still sense some frustration that they You almost forget the way that game ended, that it was 7-3 deep into the second quarter. And that touchdown they scored right before halftime was huge, because otherwise that was still a game that could have gone either way.
Well, I think the conversation about the Bears, scripted plays is worth bringing up here, because the Bears have gone from focusing on what Matt Eberflus described as openers, first and second down plays that they like, and then you have your third down package based on down and distance. I think it's a misconception that you have like these scripted plays, and this is the order these scripted plays are going to work. No, it doesn't work that way. Down and distance and situations still matter for those scripted plays. But I think in regards to those scripted plays, the Bears themselves, the players themselves, like knowing that these are the top plays on Shane Waldron's play sheet for this week and having them fresh in their mind to open games. So we'll see if that works.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about this the other day. The first drive is really the only drive you get to plan. Like, and say that, if this thing goes ideal, these are the 10 plays we're going to use to get down the field or whatever.
Yeah. And even then, like you may be planning to call this play on second down, but if it's 2nd and 9 and you have like there's different layers to what the scripted plays actually mean.
Right.
It's not just like these are the 15 plays I'm going to call in order. No, it doesn't work that way.
All right.
Next.
Next one. Another one. Same guy, no context. With the O-line finding their sea legs, would you guys still swap out Shelton for Bates when he comes back?
I'm sticking with Coleman Shelton right now. I think he just had one of his best games against the Jaguars. And when the offensive line is playing as well as it is right now, sure, whatever, discredit if you want because of the competition, but it's working. And it starts at center, and it starts with the quarterback. There's chemistry there with Ryan Bates, not Ryan Bates, with Coleman Shelton and Caleb Williams. And there's chemistry with Coleman Shelton getting everyone in line up front. So I think you stick with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it would be silly to kind of mess with the chemistry but you have them ready to go if you need to. And again, another option that can help at guard, which goes back to that Nate Davis question we answered earlier. All right, let's get to another one here as we get close to wrapping up. At J. Schweit, any chance the Bears negotiate extensions for Teven Jenkins, Keenan Allen, or any other players during the bye week?
Well, Teven Jenkins is the big one, right? This is when Ryan Poles said they're going to revisit things with Teven. He told us this on our podcast with him. Do you think, Adam Hoge, that Teven Jenkins has earned that contract at this point?
I'm going to give a soft yes, because he has dealt with some injuries here. But other than not being able to finish that game a couple weeks ago with the ribs, or was that the ankle? I'm forgetting. Did he not finish both?
Yeah. He did not finish the game with the ankle injury. Yeah. He was ruled out, relatively quickly.
Yeah. But he's come back from both of them. And I think also the types of injuries matter. These are injuries that are more like football. As a result of playing football, it's going to happen. They're not soft tissues. They're not what appeared to be. And this is the big question, I think, that maybe answers this question. What's the condition of his back? And if they feel good about that, to me, Johns, this is a situation where you might actually get some value too, because he hasn't been completely healthy. He hasn't been completely dominant. But to me, he's still a guy that you want to look at rewarding, that's been clearly a starter in this league and a good player when he's out there and healthy. So I guess it's the reason I say soft yes is because, if they come to the table and they're like, yeah, we want top guard money. Well, probably not. Right. But if it's a good deal that locks him up, gives the Bears some stability, understanding that maybe he's not available for every game along the way, I think I'd probably do it.
Yeah, I think it's a matter at this point of what Teven's side wants and what the Bears want. if they can find middle ground on things, and I do think the Bears are still open to this. Like if anything, I think some of the injuries and some of the ups and downs early on that Teven Jenkins had this year probably helps the Bears side. So if Teven's willing to, come to the table, find middle ground, maybe accept less, or maybe further the conversations in places he didn't want to go originally, then maybe a deal happens. But if I'm the Bears, my thought on him hasn't changed. I think he could be a high-end guard. I love his physicality. I love what he brings to the locker room. Let's try to find a deal.
And also on Teven's side, with the injuries you've had,
Yeah.
if there is a deal on the table, you probably want to take it.
Get your deal.
And he, based on what he sounded like in training camp, it sounded like that's kind of where his head was at. And the Bears were the ones that were like, all right, well, let's see it after the bye week. So it would not shock me if something gets done here. All right, last one, I think. Ooh, our guy at obvious_shirts.
Joe.
What's up, Joe? What's your favorite cereal on Victory Monday mornings?
Fun fact about Adam Jahns, he does not eat cereal. It is not good for you. It is not good for you. Too much sugar, too much processed food. And they got these other cereals that are healthier for you, but they just don't taste good.
Yeah.
I have eggs almost every morning. I'm going to have some eggs after the show in a little bit here.
Yeah,
So
I'm like you in that I don't eat a ton of cereal. We do usually keep a box or two in the house. My go-tos are Honey Nut Cheerios, which I think fall on the healthier side of cereals, although it's like the sugary version of healthy Cheerios. And then I'm sorry, but going back to being a kid, I mean, Cinnamon Toast Crunch for the win.
My go-to cereal forever, and this one falls on the healthy side, just in terms of what you're putting in your body, has always been Raisin Bran. But my trick for Raisin Bran is pouring the milk in, walking away for a little bit, and letting the bran soften, and then eating it.
See, I don't like when it gets soggy,
but not too soft. No, you got to. There's a happy go between here, because really soggy Raisin Bran isn't good, but letting it soften for a while because of the milk, that used to be my move for a long while before I cut cereal out of my diet.
Okay. Well, good job by you. All right. I think we have one more we're going to sneak in here, and then we are out of here on this fun episode of the show. At Andy Akins, you guys talk about the press box food a lot. Which stadium in the league has the best? Current day or in the past included?
Green Bay's always good. Always good. Dallas. I found this interesting. In Los Angeles, the Chargers and the Rams share the stadium, but the Rams spread is significantly better than the Chargers spread.
That's interesting, because you think it'd just be the stadium that's providing it.
No, I remember my first time there was a Rams game, and the food was outstanding. Second time,
well, I was there too. That was the opener.
Yes.
That was Justin Fields scored a touchdown in that game.
Yes. The Chargers game, not so much.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I was gonna throw SoFi in there. I think Dallas is the answer, though, because they have like it's like when you're at a fancy gala and there's like a sushi station over here and a barbecue station over here, and you might get carving station over here, and then there's a giant candy section too, like desserts over here. Oh, and we got to throw US Bank Stadium in there too, especially when you play a noon game there. The brunch that they have set up, they have an omelet station.
Very good.
Very good. Yeah, so those would be my answers. But as much as everyone wants to hate on the Packers, and we get it, halftime brats,
full-time brats. Those brats out there it's like never-ending brats.
For some reason I thought they come out of halftime. Whatever.
Yeah, it's the main option at halftime, but they're also out there before game.
They're authentic. I don't know if they're Johnsonville or not, but
they are Johnsonville.
The type. Yeah, you get the brats that you should get in Wisconsin. Outstanding.
I will say this: Soldier Field's gotten better.
Okay. Guess all I had to do was leave.
Gotten better.
I was the problem. All right, fun
They
episode.
have pizza after the game now.
Oh, that's next
Yeah,
level.
that's
Do they have coffee?
K cups now?
Oh, good. Other than that brown water that they used to serve in there.
God knows how long since it's been cleaned.
I'm sorry, but some of the worst coffee you could find in the world was in that press box. And then they would just like the game would end and it would be all gone too. So your options to get some caffeine to get through your stories was basically non-existent. All right. Well, I'm glad to hear that it's been better. Thanks, Kevin Fishbain. Again, thanks to everybody that we saw or interacted with in London. Just an unbelievable week, and we are going to take our bye week. So we will be back next Wednesday as we jump into next week with a midweek episode and then preview, which should be a really fun game in Washington, a fun matchup, good test. Honestly, these next 3 games with what's coming down the road, huge opportunity the next 3 games for the Bears with 3 winnable games, but also 3 games that can probably 2 of them that could go either way. But big opportunity coming up. It starts in Washington, and we're going to take our little break here to recharge for the rest of the season, and we will talk to you next Wednesday.
See ya.